Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we bring you day 369 of Russian invasion into Ukraine. As always, with former advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, Olexiy Arestovych, Lieutenant Colonel, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition politician. Enjoy. Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feigin Live. It is Monday, February 27th. Time is 2 minutes past 9 in Kiev and 2 minutes past 10 in Moscow. And we are doing our regular stream day 369 with Olexiy Arestovich. Good evening, Olexiy. Good evening, everybody. We'll have about 76,000 with us. Over 17,000 of you clicked the like button. Thank you for joining us early on. And please continue sharing links to that stream. Make sure that the others who haven't joined us yet will either do that or watch it later. Just let them know that we're up live. And of course, do not forget to click the like button. Subscribe to Feigin Live, to Olexiy Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English. All right. You are back from the trip, right? Yeah, I'm back. It was a good one. What are you wearing? I see some insignia. Space Force. Space Force, man. Okay. Yeah, different times. I was wondering if it's anything special. Okay. News number one. Explosion on the military airfield. Machulisha. I'm afraid I butcher the name. No, it's Machulisha, yeah. So there was an explosion. They already are saying that they're looking for some Belarus partisan. And apparently one serviceman from territorial defense died on the border with Belarus. I don't know if that's connected to this one. But do you think it's some sort of diversion or something else? Well, it's Belarus partisans. They took responsibility onto themselves, so we should trust them. And according to what I know, UAV was used and it damaged the airplane, which cost us about $350 million. Russia has about 10 of them. Announced that they have 10, out of which probably half is flying, and we understand that in Russia, if they said half is flying, then probably out of 5 there'll be 3 in repairs, a couple flying. And that's the station that allows to do intel and coordinating aerial fights, and it can participate in uncovering our air defense systems. So basically, once it's in the air, when Russia attacks Ukraine, it can do snaps and triangulate positions of our air defense systems. So this is a very important link of their system of targeting our defenses. And I would say that Lukashenko right now has to allow Russian army to attack Ukraine from the territory of Belarus, even though recently they actually haven't. They haven't hit much from Belarus. But they do have some warriors of light on their side, who, behind the border, who are brave enough to attack and destroy the key chain elements of huge intel complexes that Russia has that they're using against Ukraine. This is a very serious victory. And big thanks to Belarus partisans. This is not IVAC's American version of it, a native version. This is Russian version, but it's still very, very big achievement to destroy that. So Lukashenko had an urgent meeting about fortifying the borders of one of the other subject was to try to prevent future partisan actions or diversion actions. And his main push is that Kiev may also target their airfields and other military objects. Well, Mark, we're not hitting Belarus. We have a principal position. We are not fighting Belarus unless they engage actively in war. And our goal is to preclude the death of any single Belarus person. We do not want to leave that memory with Belarus. We want to have good relations with new Belarus after the war when they get rid of Lukashenko. We do not want to have blood to be spoiling that. And I also have to nod to Alexander Lukashenko, who is rather effective in preventing for several months any active military actions from the territory of Belarus. There's a lot of rhetoric, there's a lot of saber rattling, but for the last several months there were no active hits on Ukraine from Belarus. So do you think he is afraid? He is concerned. He is concerned that he will become a legitimate target and there'll be another flare-up of this conflict if Belarus decides to partake more actively and allow Russians to attack us from their territory more actively, as they initially did at the beginning of the war. And again, we appreciate the actions of Belarus partisans who, by the way, are not attacking Belarus. They're not attacking their own government and their own people, but they're attacking Russian occupiers, Russian occupants who have their military bases there. So they're destroying hardware of those. And indeed, you sure that there were no missiles, no jets from Belarus? Not a single one. Not a single one, Mark. It's a very serious factor. Interesting. Yeah, it would have been much easier for Russians if they could use these airfields near Gomel, near Machulishi, right? Absolutely. So we are supportive of such situation when there are no hits coming from the north, and there were some launches that, according to some data, were launched, UAVs were launched from Belarus, but they were not fully confirmed because they likely have launched from the Russian territory right next to Belarus. And Mark, one needs to understand, if you are not letting them launch anything at us from Belarus, you aren't, because if you just open this door, they'll continue doing it. So it appears that they're preventing that, they're holding. And Lukashenko is doing anything he can to stop extra military activity coming from his territory, and that is very important for us. 155,000 with us, 35,000 already clicked the like button. Please continue joining, we've been live for about 7 minutes. Subscribe to our channels. Let's open the map and take a quick look, as there are some things that are worth discussing. Let's probably start with Bakhmut. Yeah, this is the key point where Russian troops concentrate the vast majority of their efforts. All their efforts to advance near Kremenaya, near Kupinsk in the north, or Vuhledar in the south, they're failing there. And then Kherson is artillery duels. There is not much change there. There were some attempts near Mariinka down south as well, but nothing worked there. But yeah, Bakhmut still remains a focal point, and it is a difficult situation around that town, especially to the north of it, because according to their data, they moved a bit. Our official speakers are not acknowledging that yet, but there is an active defense against heavy storming actions. Indeed, they are storming our positions. There are dozens of attacks during the day, and one needs to understand this is a very dynamic situation. If somebody moved in during a day, it means that overnight or tomorrow they can be pushed back. And you can see on the map there is a bit of a threat on the north. And we did talk about a week ago that they're moving their concentration to the north of Bakhmut. And if they concentrate their efforts significantly, they can create local advancements. So the situation is difficult, but we are still in control. And we understand what they're doing. They're trying to make a pincer movement. They don't want to do street fighting at Bakhmut. They want us to withdraw. And there are some villages, some parts of the defense line which change their ownership pretty much daily. Today they reported officially to Moscow with some pictures that they captured elements of some villages, and tomorrow our guys go out there taking pictures. So that's been a key motive there. Overall situation is difficult, though. They are pressing. So do you think Ukrainian troops might leave Bakhmut? Mark, this is a decision for General Command to make. I do not see a special tragedy in leaving Bakhmut, because this is not damaged and cancelled and utterly destroyed Ukrainian troops that were surrounded and completely eliminated. No, it means that Ukrainian defense is carrying out its mission, and they are moving to the next position where they can continue doing that. And that mission is to destroy as much as you can of the advancing enemy. So it's always good when you can move to a better position that is prepared and that allows you to continue carrying it out. So, for example, Izium, we lost Izium at some point, and we did fight back. Kherson, we did leave it to Russians, and who owns Kherson now? So this is war, and the main task of defense is wearing the enemy out, is wearing them out and culling their ability to advance, because we cannot attack, we cannot advance in parallel with them. Counteroffensive during the attack is not a smart proposition in most cases. So while they're actively attacking, we need to be effectively defending ourselves and making sure we do wear out their capability to continue carrying out that mission. Bakhmut is a good solution for that. Our ratio is about 1 to 7. 7 of their soldiers to 1 of ours that we lose there. This is insanity, how many people they lose there. We've seen the losses during the day for each 24-hour period. It's from 500 to 1,000. This is insanity in the 21st century. But they work as the blunt force, the one that's walking on the bodies of their own dead soldiers. Especially that they're running out of artillery shells, they don't have enough tank ammo, even on the direction of the main strike. And for the most part, all these defenses are by manpower. And that rapid increase of losses started in October, when they were forced to switch from using equipment to life force. And where's the equipment? Oh, we destroyed them. They've got no tanks, they got no artillery to speak of. And they're rebuilding their tanks. It's kind of reminiscent of our story back in 2014, what we had to put against them, when, they could still have a tank which was refitted out of the 5 broken ones. That kind of works, but doesn't always start, and the gun doesn't really move to the right. So that's their story now. And they're losing tens of thousands people dead and wounded, taking a couple regional towns. And that's good for us. In that time, we are destroying the most valuable part of their troops, storm infantry. Remember, they had a little bit of a success near Bakhmut, which even Shoigu reported to Putin. The Second Army of the World took the right wall of the cow farm. But to do that, they had to stop the activity on pretty much every other part of that front. So there is nothing else happening? Well, there are some very slight actions that are absolutely not successful. So that's in perspective how deep did the Second Army sink. So out of the 1,000-mile front, they can only afford themselves to concentrate everything on one little area to the north of Bakhmut, so that they can continue doing some offensive maneuvers at 40 kilometers span of that front. They need to drain the rest of it from supplies and shells and equipment. And the price which they pay, you can see directly from conversations and inner fighting between Prigozhin and military command. When these things appear on the radar, it means the strain is real. And for what? For a small regional center, which is maybe a couple kilometers wide. Okay, we'll bring another video to the screen. This is from another group of mobilized people. I already used one in my other stream yesterday, but this one is also remarkable, very symptomatic of the current situation. We are appealing from mobilized troops from Serpukhov, 24th of February 2023. We're given an order to move to new positions and to attack a fortified region of Ukraine military. We only had shovels and rifles with us, so it was just a butchery for us. We lost most of our troops. We were not ready for that, neither psychologically nor physically. We were not supported with any other regiment. There were just one company of ours sent there, were usual mobilized people with usual civilian experience, and they want to throw us again on the same region. And for the second greatest army in the world, they're sending us without any support, just to die there. We're not refusing to do that, but we ask for help to propagate this message and to punish the responsible ones, so at least would not just die here in vain. So that's the second day in a row. Yesterday there were some people from Irkutsk, today people from Serpukhov. Same situation, no supplies, no support, no clothes, no fire, bad commanders, same situation. So it feels that it's only Wagner, PMC Wagner, that is actually fighting. These guys, I don't know where they're sending it from. I don't think it's Bakhmut. This is probably Marinka or Avdiivka. So, Mark, how does Russian army fight here now? In different parts, from 25 to 50% is consisting of troops like that. This is light infantry, without any equipment, without tanks or armored vehicles. They don't even have full outfit for infantry. They don't have mortars. They often even don't have machine guns. So how are they being used? A third of their losses is from these actions, from when they send these people to fight. Usually 50% of these mobilized troops are the ones who are dying. There are some cadre troops as well fighting with them. They have more equipment. They have they're missing some. So, for example, if there is a tank battalion which is supposed to have 32, they might have 15 only, and they would be considered to be still a tank battalion. This is the weakness of Russian military school, because it's their birth trauma. All calculations and planning was done without the actual consideration of how many forces are indeed on the ground. If there is a battalion on paper, they plan actions for the battalion. If this battalion is only half fitted and is missing most of equipment and most of people, they still think it's a full battalion, and that's what they continue doing. And that's the completion of Bakhmut, probably about a quarter of Wagner's, a quarter of cadre, and a half of mobilized. And they're given different tasks. Very often they're being sent to uncover the firing positions. They just sent first to be killed, and the cadre military target where the Ukrainian positions are. So people on the front, they do understand what's happening. They see that. They see that in order for Wagner or cadre military to go, they understand that they're being sent forward as a meat just to take fire upon themselves. And what they're saying, we're not refusing military tasks, but we do ask you to use us properly and to equip us properly, because why we are walking with rifles to fortified, I don't know if there was indeed concrete fortifications where they found them, but maybe. And as a result, they're very modest, by the way, saying that they have wounded and dead. Yeah, I can only imagine. Exactly. They're probably half of them missing. Right. So every third mobilized is should be expecting that destiny. That is what, at least every third, that is what's happening with them on the front. And frankly, when the cadre military come, the situation is not too much drastically different. They have some tanks and they have some armored vehicles and occasionally artillery, but they have the same results. They lose just as much. And I don't know how much civilians understand us. I'm trying to make it very simple. Let me simplify it more. When a huge army of a nuclear power, a year into the conflict, can only do military activities, and even those with a huge strain, at a span of 40 kilometers of the front, this is a catastrophe. This is like, imagine you built a BMW factory that produces 5 vehicles per month, really straining to do that, and they have to use some OEM parts, and the vehicles keep breaking, and regardless, they still report that everything works as advertised and proceeds as planned. So that's what's happening with the Russian army now. That's a catastrophe. It is being covered with propaganda that we're pushing, we'll capture, we'll conquer, but let's allow the worst situation, right? We retreated from Bakhmut and they took it. What changed? What else? What next? Right, after that, what, they push to Kiev and take Kiev? No, they'll have to waste more people doing with the same with Chasiv Yar, with Konstantinovka, and they'll need to expand as many people for the next 5 or 6 months to take maybe the next point. And what, we're going to be waiting for 5 and 6 months? And the West will not be supplying us with anything? We were actually promised a scary offensive. Where is that? And Russian soldiers and officers in our intercepts are also talking that we've been promised a huge offensive, but we're just being shot here, and there is a terrible retreat almost in some places. So that terrible offensive, that's a myth that is being pumped by Russian propaganda. That's what it is. This is the terrible offensive that we are seeing now. There's nothing behind it. There is nothing else. Kremina, Liman, Kupinsk, Bakhmut, that's all their scary offensive. That's all they can build up. But this is about nothing, really. And they're wasting their last good stormtroopers that they have on these positions. Later, the share of these poor mobilized people will be increasing. And they'll be running out of cadre as well, so they'll have to use these guys. And more we'll be seeing videos like that coming out. And even if we haven't started noticing that, they're running out of inmates, they're running out of other resources, so they have to start using these mobilized. We have our usual 300,000 something watching us now, and one of the usual moments, I understand the next piece of news may be a cringy one. We'll just show you whom to die for in a trench. So I tried to be careful with the screen grab from Trucha from Telegram. If you want to see the whole video, you can come to Feigin Live Telegram, and I published the whole video there. It was one of the videos leaked of General Matovnikov, whose striptease dance was leaked out. And yeah, he's swinging his appendage with somewhat noticeable belly. And that's a hero of Russia, awarded by Putin. So the most interesting part for me, why the F are you making these videos? Or we are not understanding something, because I don't know, maybe they didn't show us everything. I think that somebody from Wagner's side leaked that video, because he's the aide to Lapin. No, he's I think he's about the same level as Lapin. Lapin is the level of commander and the supplies on that front. This guy's in charge of a different area, but yeah, he's about the same level as Lapin. So the interesting part is we don't know whom he's coming to, taking the towel off. Is it the same sex situation or different? This is a very playful thing they like doing there. So imagine you are mobilized in a trench when you're supposed to die in the next attack. Here is one of your generals dancing and swaying all that. How much motivation do you think the soldier has? What are they dying and fighting for? Mark, let me quote you. Akunin, the stage that is titled "The Evil Eats Itself." If Russian military forces, not army, but combined symbolic military forces, instead of concentrating on military tasks that can lead to political results, started leaking compromising materials on each other, the situation is bad and it will only get worse. Just notice, Ukraine is not really doing any counteroffensive actions yet. Imagine what starts happening when we are going to be on a roll, when we will start to push back. Another interesting thing, while we've been live, Lukashenko just said that Ukraine has no other way but to sit down and conclude peace with Russia without any preliminary negotiations. What is that? That's a scream. That's a scream. Because let's sit down and negotiate, because it will be worse, right? Yeah, what worse? They'll show us the full video. Yeah, maybe the collective action at the general command. Yeah, I guess, I don't know what's going to be worse. Probably that video, exactly. So even in the media space, Ukrainian military who are trained in UK, Charles III is there shaking their hands and supporting them. And what do we see on the other side? We see Wagner and Ministry of Defense exchanging compromising stuff on each other. So in this situation, one can ask who has better perspective. And we can see speakers of the second tier in relation to Kremlin, such as Lukashenko, are talking about peace treaty without any preconditions. The moment they start talking about peace treaty without preconditions is the moment when their estimation of their own ability to continue this war, is nothing. And yesterday, by the way, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Saudi Arabia, a prince, visited Kiev. He was, of course, he brought some help. He brought some humanitarian aid to the country. Very impressive. $400 million worth, actually, the package. So 3/4 of that is oil products and energy stuff, and a quarter is humanitarian help. And I wrote a post about that, that many people pay attention to the possible union between China or alignment, Iran and Russia, but in the world, there is still a principle of balance of powers that exists. So for every motion, there'll be counter motion. Saudi Arabia, they've never visited Ukraine. Now they are here. Why? Because Iran is fighting actively against Saudi Arabia and Israel. Iran is doing a proxy war in Yemen, in Iraq, attacking. The same Iranian drones are attacking these guys also in Syria as well. So do you think Saudi Arabia will just sit it out and wait? Of course not. They'll rebalance the power. So first, an important signal to those who worry that, look, the other side is gathering and discussing. We are gathering and discussing too. And we do understand that Saudi Arabia has some really good capabilities against which Iran is intriguing there down south, and them joining us and expressing their support, that's good. That scream of Lukashenko, that let's sit down without pre-negotiations, that may be an echo of a scream up above in Russia. Because remember, Lukashenko also was going to go travel abroad, and they might be gauging the actual potentials of powers, and they do understand, I think, now that it's not working to their favor. And European Union and United States are already pointing out to China that if China dares to supply arms to Russia, they'll pay a very expensive price for that. And European Union, with the head of European diplomacy, already also stated that the document provided by China is the roadmap further is good, but it is a flawed document because it puts on the same level the aggressor with the defending party. So the document is not balanced from the get-go, and the aggressor needs to be punished. And we do understand the weight of such a statement, and China needs to consider these statements. They need to realign their position. And then Forbes is publishing how much Russia did spend for that military operation, $114 billion. That's a third of their budget. It's a third of their budget. And hundreds of troops, hundreds of thousands of troops. For what? For Solidar? For supporting these dancing generals, stripteasing in front of we don't even know whom? What's the problem? The problem is that they're getting about $600 million from oil exports daily and gas, and they're wasting on war about a half of that. So when these graphs collide, that's when they'll really face the abyss. And I think it'll be about June when they cross. Again, more support from United States, over $10 billion of economic support to Ukraine and $1.5 billion to rebuild the energy sector of Ukraine economy. So the usual question, what do you think will come of it? On one side, there is a country that is supported by the whole world, and the other side is trying to conduct military activities that are very fruitless, and they don't really have any allies to speak of. So these screams about let's sit down without pre-negotiations, that kind of tells you the story. And if you add the possible statement, the actual statement that Putin made recently about the possible split of Russia, imagine what needs to happen in order for a president to bring into a media space the discussion that the country might fall apart. What needs to happen in order for a president to come out and say that? I can address it to the people who are not too experienced in big politics. It means that this narrative is being discussed at least for 3 or 4 months. They are looking and considering that narrative as a possible scenario, and it is reached to such a level that even the president needs to react to that. Presidents usually react to the most important and the most serious signals which are indeed a threat. They are usually not reacting to smaller ones. They don't react to smaller bickering and claims and all that. The whole position of a president basically only comes out when there is a significant threat. And here we see Putin coming out and saying that evil West wants to split us apart. And let's put that on one side of the weights, and on the other, Lukashenko screamed that there is no other way but to sign peace treaty without preconditions. This gives you a picture that if they're seriously considering that if they continue their course, the whole country is at risk of falling apart. The whole war in Afghanistan over 10 years cost them $160 billion, the USSR. Of course, they were old dollars, but it was 10 years. And here they wasted in 1 year $114 billion. Soviet Union, that was much stronger than Putin's Russia, faltered after the loss in this war. They're falling into an abyss. And of course, Ukrainian soldier near Solidar might not really feel that. It's really hard for them to fight. And Ukrainians who are being shelled with missiles, out of which, by the way, we shot down 14 more yesterday, on the strategic level, we are trying, you and me are trying to show that this war has no perspective for our attackers. The war, in some sort, is in its final third, in its final phase. And all these perspectives of a long war that we're being scared with, that you need to win it now, otherwise Ukraine will have to be pushed to negotiations. What push? When President of Russia is coming out and talking about Russia falling apart. They even have drawn some scenario for that. He was talking about that in details. Mark, as a deputy of, or ex-deputy of Congress, what needs to happen in order for President to come out like that? Well, yeah, it's two levels. I think psychologically he is conveying his own fears. And second, he is reflecting the information and the fears that are coming at him from his management, from his team. So, yeah, that means that it is being discussed. It is being seriously discussed, and they are thinking what to do with it. And they're trying to scare people to give them additional motivation. These mobilized people who are recording videos saying that they were thrown at the concrete fortified positions without any support, they don't care about Russia falling apart. Indeed, yeah, they're looking at their portion of the front saying that this is the thing that's falling apart. And Moldavia is canceling flights to Russia from their territory because of other dangers that they mentioned. I don't know. Is it a big sign? Is it anything that we should pay attention to? No, I think they're reacting. They just want to prevent certain things. It's easier for them to close airspace and cancel a few things in advance and then maybe reconsider later. I think they're preparing for different eventualities that may happen in the next few months. And actually, many other guests I had after your statement about maybe helping Moldova to get rid of Transnistria, Russian forces there, many analysts are now considering that as a possible smart move. So I have another question, Olexiy, before you go. What happened? You've been away for 3 days. I've been in Italy. Anything interesting? Mark, there have been things there that I cannot talk about in live stream. I was in Italian parliament. I met people who are helping Ukraine. I do jump across the border for a day or two for different reasons, but I usually come back with some interesting and good developments that help us. So, oh yeah, I actually did visit Italian parliament before when I was defending Savchenko in those times. So, okay, one of the things I can talk about, Italy, as many other countries in Europe, are investigating Russian war crimes in Ukraine. They are doing their own investigation. They have several proceeds in work, several cases in work. And one of the messages that I was asked to convey is that people who suffered during this war very often are afraid to cooperate with European police, with European authorities. So they asked me to send a message that please do not be afraid. First of all, please continue cooperating. It is important for them. That helps them to build a database of war crimes. This is European justice. It's very slow, but it's the one that will not just close case and archive it. They will see it through and they will get to the end of it. And as a result of these criminal proceedings, investigations, they usually result in sanctions, in more military supply. So this is the message that I was given and asked to convey, that if European authorities approach some of you, some of our viewers, with requests to help them, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to cooperate with them. They also provide security for their witnesses. So there is a witness protection program, and this is one of the asks. There are many problems we discussed, but this is one of them that I can talk about in public. They're asking Ukrainians to be more active to participate more actively in investigating the crimes of Russian side during this war. This is an important part of punishment of military criminals, and this is part of our victory. This is important for us to make sure that happens, because even if we kick them all out, but we do not punish the criminals, then it means that next set of those criminals will want to repeat. They'll feel unpunishable. Exactly. Not being punished breeds new evil. So if we don't want a second round, we need to make sure we punish these current criminals. And in order to do that, we need to cooperate. And there are some people who do cooperate, but many people are concerned. They're seriously traumatized by events that unfolded around them, that they partook in. So please do not be afraid. If you are being sourced by European justice system, it doesn't mean that they'll put you in some interrogation chair. No, you are being invited there as witnesses, as people who suffered from the war crimes, and you will be provided security, protection, and you will also, this will be your chance to add your contribution to our victory. And I understand emotional trauma may be a serious barrier, and maybe some experience with other power agencies, maybe in Ukraine before that, or in Russia, that may just have left a bad taste, and you don't want to talk to any of them. But please make an effort. If European justice system reaches out to you, make an effort to respond and to help them. Okay, 293,000 are with us. Over 100,000 click the like button. Thank you, friends. One more thing for today. For day 369, I published today, if you saw it on my channels, Russian information agency news. It's a propaganda source, but they published material about situation in Georgia, and they called it that Georgia is turning to the east, away from Europe. And there are quotes from leadership of Georgian Dream, the party in power. They're basically refusing or stating that they refuse to let Saakashvili out. Zurabishvili is trying to wiggle her way out of that complex situation and is not making direct statements, but is not pardoning him yet. And it's probably most difficult for her because she has that right to pardon him. And the rest of her party seems to be okay with losing the process of European integration, but to not let him out from the country, and do not want to leave the power in the country. So Georgian society is different. It's not what that party represents, and it'll be up to Georgians to figure out their position and voice it. Many people after that publication started saying and asking questions, what else, what's next with Mikhail? We will continue our struggle. I will have several meetings here with some serious people in Europe who can affect things. It is going to be leadership and advisors to the first persons of several countries here in Europe, and we will be planning more actions. We will give them a little more time. Our action just happened 7 days ago, so we'll see how, if anything else will unfold, if there'll be more news coming out. I heard, and I do know that connected with President Biden's visit and some actions that and activities done by presidents of European countries, there were some conditions and there was some ultimatum message sent to Georgian government. They still have a little bit of time left to react to that. The next summit of NATO will be in June in Vilnius, and I think that'll be the most difficult bell that'll ring for Georgia during that summit, according to what I know about this situation. And they have less and less time left, but we do hope that we can affect the destiny of Mikhail Saakashvili. Mark, all these turns to the east need to be evaluated by Georgian people. We can only say that Putin's regime effects are really poisoning onto the neighbors. Just recently, Georgia was way ahead of Ukraine and Moldova on the way to NATO and European Union. They were an example for us and Moldova to follow. But now they're turning to the east, attempting to murder a prisoner, and other discussions around Moscow-centric world. So that's the bet they're making for themselves. In the meantime, we're not giving up our efforts. No, we're not. We ask you to please continue supporting us. Thank you, Olexiy. We have about 300,000 with us, over 110,000. Click the like button. And our next stream is when? Wednesday? Yes, Wednesday. We'll cover most of the key news that happens until then. Yes, Wednesday is a good day. So Wednesday, same time. Translation will appear on Thursday, Eastern morning, Eastern Standard. It'll be a good stream, so come join us then. And do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for being with us. See you Wednesday. Goodbye, Olexiy. Good luck.